We all know some of the greatest anime fights that have defined battle shonen, and when we think of a specific shonen, a main fight usually comes to mind almost immediately. However, what many people don't think about at first, despite the fact that they are sometimes even higher in quality than the main battles, are the so-called underrated fights. These are fights that the casual audience or the mainstream fanbase doesn't talk about very often, but that the core community deeply appreciates. So why is this that these fights of all things receive such high recognition from certain fans? In many of these battles, characters are placed in the spotlight in ways they usually are not. They stand out through excellent choreography, memorable moments, or a strong overall presence. These are moments not dominated by the main heroes or main villains, which often makes them resonate even more with the community. One of these underrated fights in Dragon Ball Z is Piccolo vs Android 17. Their fight is without a doubt one of the most popular fights in the series, and the reason for that is actually quite simple. First of all, you have two absolute badass characters with equally badass designs colliding. Neither of them is a Saiyan, which only makes this encounter a huge exception in Dragon Ball Z. Instead, we have a Namekian and an android, two groups that clearly don't belong to the typical main group, the Saiyans. Piccolo, who has always been a fan favorite, had already gone through countless fights by this point. Together with Goku against Raditz, with the Z-Fighters against the Cybermen, where Piccolo confronts Nappa and Vegeta in what is arguably the most badass way imaginable, and later against Frieza's second form, where Piccolo was actually able to apply serious pressure. Even though Piccolo usually ended up losing these battles, they all shared one important trait. They were balanced and skillful. And that's something that isn't very common in Dragon Ball Z. More often than not, the power gap between fighters is simply too large, and overwhelming ki blasts tend to overshadow real techniques, hand-to-hand combat, and technical fighting. Things that OG Dragon Ball fans absolutely loved, but which gradually received less attention in the Z series. A large part of the original series was built around exactly those elements, which is also one of the main reasons so many fans still hold it in such high regard. On the other hand, Android 17 hadn't really gone all out up to that point. And because of that, there was a natural sense of curiosity surrounding him, as the audience wanted to see what he was truly capable of. And so finally, in chapter 367, it happens. During the Cell Saga, the two meet on an island, and Piccolo, who after fusing with Kame is considered the strongest Z-Fighter at that time, is facing off against Android 17. And even before the fight truly begins, Piccolo already has a massive aura moment through his power-up, showing us just how strong he has actually become at this point as a result of his fusion. Something that is even explicitly confirmed by Goku himself. I mean, the fact alone that Goku states they would only get in Piccolo's way in their current forms is absolutely crazy.
Just wait! Piccolo's more than twice as strong as he used to be. He can definitely hold his own until then.
Yes.
So their fight begins, and it actually starts with one of my all-time favorite interactions in DBC, when Android 17 is shocked by what Android 16 just told him about Piccolo, only to then be completely caught off guard by him. An absolute GOAT moment.
This Namekian is not Piccolo.
Who is he then?
And it doesn't stop there. Piccolo goes fully on the offensive, applying relentless pressure on 17 blow after blow. But 17 responds with an aerial attack, which Piccolo is able to parry. 17 is also far too skilled to be seriously hit by Piccolo. For now at least. After several counters, Piccolo manages to land some heavy hits on 17, a brutal elbow drop followed by a hard kick to the face and a ki blast, and early on Piccolo is clearly the stronger one and dominates the fight, leaving 17 struggling to adapt to Piccolo's overwhelming power paired with his speed. However, Android 17 seems unfazed, and he doesn't waste any time and immediately goes back on the offensive, attacking Piccolo and leading to another series of exchanges before Piccolo ultimately fires several ki blasts at 17 while he's in midair. 17 initially dodges every single one of them and even mocks Piccolo, telling him that he missed everything. But this was merely the setup for a new technique we got to witness, the Hellzone Grenade, a variation of Piccolo's scatter shot. At first, things don't look good for 17, but he then shows just how skilled he is as well, because to Piccolo's surprise, he manages to block the entire attack by surrounding himself with a barrier. This moment essentially marks a turning point in the fight, because unlike Piccolo, 17 has unlimited stamina, while Piccolo gradually begins to lose strength. And from this point on, it becomes noticeable in the course of the battle. Another exchange of blows follows, featuring an incredibly impressive level of acrobatic intensity between the two, and even though Piccolo is still on equal footing with 17, you can tell that 17 is now increasingly taking control of the fight, applying pressure and being able to go on the offensive. Piccolo knows that time is running out for him, which is why he now goes all in. Together with 17, he bursts out of a volcano, and how much aura do you even need for that? And counters 17's dash with a straight jab to 17's arms. Piccolo immediately follows up with an explosive breath cannon, which 17 counters with a blast of his own. Piccolo now takes advantage of a brief moment of inattention from 17 and lands a savage punch to 17's gut, followed by an X-hand strike to the head that sends 17 flying into the sea. 17 is visibly pissed and gathers his ki once more, releasing an explosion underwater, one that Piccolo manages to escape just in time. Their fight now enters its final phase, and 17 is furious, giving Piccolo no time to breathe. Another dash, another exchange of blows, and a heavy strike slams Piccolo into a massive rock. However, Piccolo manages to endure the attack and return the favor, sending 17 crashing into a rock as well, followed by another ki blast. Piccolo is then caught off guard by 17, who, like Kakashi, emerges from the ground behind him and attacks with a kick. Then comes my absolute favorite scene of the fight. 17 grabs Piccolo by the arm and slams him to the ground with a shoulder throw, only for Piccolo to immediately grab him in return and hurl him into the ground as well. 17 then grabs Piccolo's arm and swings him across the island like Super Mario, followed by a powerful forward dash punch straight into Piccolo's stomach. Piccolo immediately counters with a brutal punch to 17's gut as well, and what follows is a series of heavy blows exchanged back and forth, each strike dealing serious damage to both fighters. The intensity is nothing short of brutal, and both are visibly battered by the attacks and ready to move into the next round, but before it can begin, Cell's sudden appearance interrupts them. This is how the fight ends in a draw between the two. The anime definitely does both characters and the fight justice, because in the manga the battle is nowhere near as spectacular or intense as it is in the anime. While the most important moments are still recognizable in the manga, the power scaling and overall intensity are far weaker and not nearly as well portrayed as in the anime. One highlight that I really like in the manga though is the depiction of the Hellzone grenade. I mean, just look at it. It's incredibly epic and especially beautiful in the color version. Android 17's barrier is also shown in a really cool way. Even though the manga does a great job of showcasing the techniques and skills of both characters, the pacing feels a bit too fast to me. Both of them definitely deserved more on-screen time than just 1 or 2 chapters. In the end, I'm glad the anime adapted the fight so incredibly well, both in terms of animation and in how it showcased the techniques and skills of both characters, and for many in the community and definitely for me, it's clear that the fight between Piccolo and Android 17 might actually be one of the most underrated battles in the entire Dragon Ball franchise. That's why it was even more satisfying when Dragon Ball Super gave us that reunion moment between Piccolo and 17 where they showed mutual respect for each other. What do you think? Is the fight one of the peak battles in Dragon Ball? Let me know in the comments, and as always, stay safe and have a nice day.